participants to be muted, as well as their video, in order to maximize performance of the network and so forth. You'll see probably Darren and Rob and I will all mute our audio and then close down our video as well, so the focus is on the presenter. So again, use the Q&A or the the chat functions to send us any questions you may have along the way. And know that you can also either send questions to Mason's support at michiganmasons.org, or call the toll-free number of 800-321-9357 to our outreach and member care department, and they'll be glad to funnel the questions. Either way, we'll get you the information. So I had thought that Worship Brother Rob LaFleur was a bit crazy to be secretary of a lodge and handle all the functions that he handles, and Worship Brother Darren as well, for all he does for the Grand Lodge and being secretary of the lodge. But then there's Corey Curtis, who is courageous enough to be the secretary of two lodges and handle all the things he does with the lodge success team. So we've asked Worship Brother Corey to be our presenter this evening for reaching out to members, objectives and strategies, and suggested methods. So Corey, I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
Ooh, thank you. This magic thing running for us. And make it work like it's supposed to. Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for being here. We're talking about prospect and member engagement and connection, and I'm going to dive right into it. This is such an important topic. I apologize ahead of time because, as many of you know, I'm more comfortable in front of a dry erase board or a flip chart or something like that, and not such a PowerPoint presentation, but we're going to make do, and it's going to be great. And I thank you for being here. Look forward to what you have to say. So we're going to talk about building a connection. What is a connection? How do we engage, and what does engagement mean? And doing that with our brother Masons. We understand that this has a Masonic basis. We don't just do this because we feel the need to, have more people fill our lodge rooms, although that would be nice, or more people read our newsletter, although that would be nice, or more people attend a degree or a dinner or a function or a social or whatever. All those things would be good too, but certainly we learn about it first in the Entered Apprentice degree, as well as other places in our Masonic ritual. We are going to be talking about both lodges and individual connection, and how we can apply techniques to really make sure we engage members, prospects, and community members who might not be members of our lodge. And we can see all these different folks that we were going to work with and affect today. So here we can see some desired outcomes. This is basically what we're going to accomplish today, and hopefully what you walk out with. And if you don't feel like you're leaving the presentation with these particular items, which you can read before you, by all means contact us. We can discuss this more and really flesh it out for you. More than a 30-minute presentation that covers a lot of material. So let's talk about engagement first. Engagement, I define that as the emotional commitment that the member has to the organization and the goals of that organization. So the emotional commitment, that refers to engaged members, engaged Masons, and that they actually care about their brothers, their lodge, their fraternity, and the work that those individuals or entities undertake. Connection, another key part of our presentation today, defined by John Maxwell, a leadership guru and presenter that some of us might have taken some great John Maxwell classes offered by Bob Conley, past Grandmaster. And he defines connection as the ability to identify with people and relate to them in such a way that increases our influence with them. And it's important to note that influence does not have some kind of nefarious intent, certainly not the way that I would use it today. It is not something that involves trickery, or It's not meant to help you win an argument or persuade somebody to do something. I call it more, I see it more of as an openness currency. Okay. The players in the two-person relationship, right? Do they trust each other? Are there high willingness to send and receive communication? Does the communication feel good for both parties? So it has no negative connotation or nefarious intent whatsoever. And of course, you see it says with them, not over them or on them. We're not lording anything over anybody. So we want to cultivate our connection. And we do this by getting to know an individual, being intensely curious and asking questions about them. That's the best way to get to know somebody. Let them talk more about themselves and talking about themselves. Very intent and active listening, and finding out how you can help them, offering to help, and then following through with their wishes. Those are just some basic examples of how we can cultivate this thing called connection. Now, I base our discussion on the Masonic ritual. We're Masons, by and large, or serve a Masonic purpose. And we can see the basis for connection in the Entered Apprentice Lecture when we see two hands clasped, or two brothers embraced, or perhaps in the 5 points in fellowship. I want to focus a little bit today, just briefly, on brotherly love, relief, and truth, the tenets of our profession. We notice that these have everything to do with, I encourage you to go look them up if you're unfamiliar with all the pieces, but they focus on what we do for others, how we should act as Masons to others. And it's important to remember this as the basis for what we do. Also, we're charged as Masons to take the initiative. It's incumbent upon us to ensure that we are the ones reaching out to connect. The other folks' intents, that's up to them. But we as Masons, we know, we understand our obligation and these lessons we learn in our lectures. So let's take it upon ourselves to reach out and embody some of these tenets. And so I encourage you to take a look at that and kind of reflect on how Masonry teaches us to connect with others. As we're still talking about the definition of connection, it's important to know that when we are looking to connect with others, whether it's a member of our lodge or a prospect or a member of the community or someone who's renting from our building, whatever it may be, the enemy of connection is assumption. So assuming we know what someone else is thinking without directly asking them about a situation or about something we're thinking about, or assuming we know why they want to be a Mason if it's a prospect, assuming why they're not coming back to lodge, or why they don't attend dinner, or those sorts of things. It's important that we don't make assumptions, but that if we're looking to connect with somebody, if we're looking to really engage our members by those definitions we discussed, that we seek them out and figure out what the truth is. It's important. I had an experience as a junior warden that, which often in lodges, you have to, the junior wardens will cook the meal. And I had the opportunity to figure out what we're supposed to eat for the week or for the month, for the year. And I put out a little survey and just a paper thing, figured out what folks like to eat. But I also realized that there were some members that didn't stay to eat. So I sought those folks out and I figured out what the reason was. One reason was particularly interesting. The past master, he had a particular religious preference, and with that came a particular dietary needs. And the lodge for about 25 years had never addressed those dietary needs. So he figured he wasn't welcome at meals. So that was pretty easy. We just made sure we had some options for him to eat at every meal. And suddenly he was attending meals. So something as easy as, I could have said, oh, they have some other place to go, or they have something else to do, or they don't want to be with us. I could have made an assumption. But instead, if we ask and find out what the real reason is, what the obstacle might be, perhaps we can help somebody so that they can be more engaged in Masonry and enjoy the benefits and opportunities that being an active Mason provides to a member. So here's some ideas on why we should connect. Just like we just mentioned, assuming false or incorrect truths is up there. Form a bond, learn something new, all sorts of important things that will really drive how our relationships with each other, as well as how strong our lodge will be and how active it will be. So what will Connection do for your lodge? The big thing, I think, is understand and respond to the needs, goals, and obstacles of your members. Know their motivations, know their expectations, and understand that members may participate more if they feel that they're being heard, if they feel that they are an important part of what the lodge is up to. So we have all sorts of methods of communication in order to reach our members, right? So first group of communications, I think, is mass communication. All right, divided into two groups. So this is like a group Zoom meeting, a newsletter, a Facebook post, a general letter, all these different things, a mass text, a phone bite, many ways we can reach out to our members just to, provide them information. That's generally what happens. We are inviting them to something, providing them some information. This is very passive. It does nothing really to connect. Perhaps it lays a foundation of maybe there's something going on at lodge, but if we don't have a connection with our members, it's very easy to ignore this kind of communication, perhaps, or have put importance on other things going on in our lives or other pieces of mail or email that we get. So it's important that we form that connection with our members so that when something's going on that they might be interested in, they're more likely to take a look at it. It's important to note too that we're talking about these things, and we don't expect any lodge to go from 0 to 150 overnight, right? Incremental growth is really the key. Make a plan, and then make an effort to slowly get better and better and better at what we do. Increase our mass communication, or as we'll see here, put together some personal modes of communication and implement these to really form that connection. This is the connection-focused communication that we've been talking about. So we're looking at in-person, one-to-one, maybe a small group or an individual video chat, Zoom, Skype, FaceTime sort of thing, a phone call, a social media message, text message, note card. And the first things we talk about up top there are the most personal, obviously. But we can think about when you receive a card in the mail, how do you feel about that if someone's thought of you? If your mentor calls on the phone, how do you feel? Well, we've been locked down here with the pandemic. My mentor from 12, 13 years ago gave me a call out of the blue, and my gosh, it felt great. He called from Florida, and we talked for an hour and a half. It was amazing. I really appreciated that. We start to form a direct connection with these types of communication, but they are time intensive, okay, and they are resource intensive. But again, it's important to remember incremental growth is the name of the game. We don't just change everything overnight. It's something we learn and plan for, and then it's also important to know that we can bring others along with us. Well, they're members of our lodge. If we don't have that many resources in our lodge, that's okay. Perhaps we'll work with members of other lodges and make everyone in several lodges in the area make all their lives better because we've been able to work together and reach out with personal communication like this. So again, it's all about making it personal. That connection is only going to be made through this personal communication. So first I ask how we need to have a plan to connect with members, and it includes a number of different things. And you can take a look at these considerations, but the important thing is write down a plan. Who are we going to talk to? What are we going to do? And make sure that we share that and receive buy-in with the other folks that we're working with, the other brothers in our lodge. Ask questions. We'll be talking about a personal interview very soon to make a connection, to show you have interest with folks and interest in what they're doing. Find out about them. be intensely curious, things that we've talked about. It's important to take notes so we know what was said and we can refer back to it. Additionally, we talked about using your resources already. Who else can take part in this? There's a couple great lodges I know out there that they have brothers that are at home, not doing anything else, unable to come to lodge, but they give them a list of brothers to call and have those brothers reach out to other brothers. It makes everybody stay. I mean, it's a win-win situation. We got to find resources like that in our lodge. And also make sure that the lodge leadership is involved in these plans and the results and making the next plan, that sort of thing. So let's see here. So let's talk about a personal discussion now. This is the gateway to connection. If we learn that 80% of our connection opportunities are one-on-one. All right, that's more than anything else, a one-on-one conversation is really where we're going to make the difference. And I'll say this may be wholly uncomfortable for some people. I know it can be an effort. The interviewer, the person that has to ask questions and find out information. But of course, reputation will solve that problem and ensure that we get better and better at this particular process. So where do we do this? Ideally over pancakes or coffee. Might not be working out so well as we're socially distanced, but a phone or video meeting will work well too. I know that I've been communicating with brothers from my lodge and all lodges all over the place, but especially prospects from my lodge and newer members and a lot of them guys just over text message, and they really appreciate that. Some other folks appreciate a phone call, and others, appreciate other forms of communication. But depending on what they're comfortable with, we have a lot of options. And it's always difficult to start. So I say, you can say any different thing. I'm a newer Mason and I'm calling to get to know you better. And this newer Mason thing, it actually works quite well. I've used it for about 15 years. So no problem. You can be a newer Mason, until you're not. Another easy way, if we don't want to call ourselves a newer Mason, I don't know you very well, but I'd like to get to know you. It's important to be honest. Let's make sure we're open. Folks know what it is we're getting at. Okay. And a lot of people enjoy talking about themselves. It's a wonderful thing, and they're going to appreciate it when you are trying to get to know them. So just as some examples, there are a couple different groups. I'm going to focus on Master Masons and folks who aren't yet Masons or not yet Master Masons or prospects. A couple questions just to get things going, just so you can see the tenor. And once you get rolling with it, you'll have other questions that pop into mind as you're talking about it. Why did you become a Mason? How did you get involved? Your favorite Masonic memory? A couple open-ended questions and open-ended statements that might encourage somebody to share with you a bit. You'll find some commonalities for sure. And certainly learn more about the brother that you are interviewing or having a conversation with. But I've definitely used these when I meet someone for the first time on the phone, even, and you have to build rapport quickly. Some of these questions really help have a great conversation and can help us get to the task at hand. They also make you feel really good about just being a Mason, learning some of these things and what folks have experienced and how you can make a difference in their life. Now, when we talk about prospects, another group, very important. We have hundreds of prospects out there right now waiting for the opportunity to put a petition in. This is a great time to start talking to them, whether it's about text message or a phone call or standing 12 feet apart, whatever it may be. Let's start connecting with these folks and really enriching their experience, right? So you'll recognize some of these leading statements, but always asking, why do you want to be a Mason? I do it several times to some prospects just so they can think about and understand for themselves why they want to take this important step in their life. Also asking about goals in their personal life. Do you know any Masons? All sorts of different things I have listed here that will help get a personal interview with prospects going. After a couple conversations, I tend to ask things like about their obstacles and challenges. Some of it comes up automatically just as you build a rapport, but digging in with these personal questions and really trying to understand where somebody's coming from and what their expectations, goals, and obstacles are it'll form that connection, and it'll give them something that they'll look forward to. They'll look forward to talking to a brother again who's reached out to them like this. It's easy as an interviewer to start to talk about yourself or something like that, but it's very important for us to focus on the person that we're interviewing and asking questions about them and getting them to open up. We'll have time for talking about us later. I want to touch on dues notices. They are barriers to connection. There's a saying, and I used to be a fundraiser, right? So there's just 7 touches. You have to have 7 touches of an individual before we ask them for money. And some places, the only touch a brother gets throughout the whole year is from their dues notice. And that makes me think, if the only time somebody got a hold of me was to ask me for money, I wouldn't be very fond of that particular person or organization. So we have to think, what am I doing to connect with my brothers? Provide Masonic value to them, or use the tenets of my profession during the year. Why should they pay their dues? Why should they attend? Should they even read our newsletters, right? So here are a couple suggestions for this. Throughout the year, we can send a thank you letter or note, talk about their how many years they've been a Mason. It might be not very many, or it might be a lot, but we can still thank them for being a member and ensure that they know about all the great value that being a Michigan Mason provides. Make a Masonic anniversary or birthday call. Here's a check-in on a brother, even if you know him personally. I hear this regularly. I don't know him very well, so I'm going to let my secretary call him. And for those of us who are secretaries, or just people who know what the secretary's job is, that is a lot of calls that for some reason I'm the only person that knows. So it's important to expand, and let's try to have the entire officer corps or any active member get to know everybody else, even if they're not attending lodge right now or they can't attend lodge. One of these suggestions, like officers call their lifetime members and widows or the other members regularly with a rotating roster. So the same person doesn't necessarily call the same person all the time. And that allows people to meet more members of the lodge and eventually check in on them in the future when it rotates back to them. And I also encourage calling brothers who haven't paid their dues for years even, and reaching out and just saying, hey, I send a letter out, and we make calls like this in my particular lodge, and we got a good response. When we started just asking folks if there's anything that we need to support them, do they need any relief? Some folks came back, they paid several years of dues, and they said, I forgot what it meant to be a Mason. And just by asking me how I was doing, instead of asking me for money, I remember, I'm back at it. So that's been very effective. And it's just about understanding individuals' needs, all right, and really listening to them and seeing how we can help them achieve their goals. If we haven't noticed, there's a strange situation about us with this pandemic. So there's a lot of different ideas that we might have to connect, depending on how fast we're opening, how fast our lodge is opening. Everyone's feels like they're at a different stage right now, but a regular calling tree, if we haven't already started, it's a regular calling tree to our members, just to make sure that they get some kind of friendly voice over the phone every once a month or a couple times a month if we can do it. That's great, just as often as possible. It's important to escalate our mode of communication in times of isolation. So if we felt like calling, try a video chat. If you feel like texting or emailing, make a call. The closer we can get to human interaction, the better. And of course, set up Zoom meetings, with different groups, whether it's officers, members, even prospects, to get together and start discussing. It's also a great opportunity to work with folks who are in mid-degree. So if they're an EA, FL, craft, or new master mason, they can start learning some things about masonry and having some deep discussions or connecting with them. We can also spend time reaching out to those folks who perhaps we didn't spend a lot of time with them before they were put in their petition or receive some of their degrees. Now we can go back and connect with them and help them have a richer experience, and us have a richer experience as well. A couple opportunities we've discovered while at home. We might have realized what it means to be isolated. And it's important for us to recall that some people feel like this all the time. And what are we going to do as Masonic leaders to prevent members of our fraternity, widows, orphans, from feeling isolated in the future when perhaps we're not under a stay-at-home order, right? So let's think about those members that we haven't touched base with for a while, and what we can do to support them and how we can include that in our plan. And we've also found out that we've connected with some individuals who don't necessarily make it to lodge. So maybe they have to work, or they don't live close by, or they have a strange shift, or maybe they're caring for a family member and they just can't make it out. Through Zoom and teleconferencing, we have these new opportunities where we can include these folks. Maybe it's not going to be for a regular tiled meeting or degree, but is there an opportunity for us to place once a month a Zoom meeting so we can connect with the individuals who have these other situations, so they still feel like they're Masons, and we can still engage them, and they'll find plenty of opportunities for them to be with us one way or the other. I have a couple of radical ideas, because I'm known for my radical ideas. So we can ask ourselves, is there more to Masonry than lodge meetings, dinners, and ritual work? As we haven't had those things for nigh on 3 months, but Masonry still persists, right? We're still here. We're still being Masons every day. What can we do to give more of our members opportunities to connect with us, even though they can't attend those particular things once we get back going here? Are Masons still Masons even though they don't attend lodge? And of course we know they are. Sometimes we don't treat them that way. So what are we going to do to reach out to those individuals, engage them, connect with them, and let them know you're still a Mason, and there might be an opportunity for you to participate. And of course, we want to see, how can, sorry, I'm having a crisis. There we go. I want to make sure you see this part here. There you go. So how can we reach out to members of our lives that don't necessarily respond or attend? What plans are we making to do those things? And what can we use what we've learned here in Connection, when talking about connection and engagement, to make sure that we make every effort to be with those members, okay? Meet them where they are and give them an opportunity for Masonic engagement. No problema. Well, I thank you for being part of this today. And I know that we won't have any problems now that we've all seen this wonderful webinar. But I want to make sure that everyone knows that we can continue the conversation with the Live Success Team by calling that 1-800 number there, or reaching out with the Masonic Report support email address, and we can figure out how to implement these things in your lodge. We have a great, wonderful staff that live better at home, also part of outreach and member care. By that same 1-800 number, if you know a brother, a widow, an orphan in need of relief or support, or anything else, they are amazing. Let's make sure we give them a call. The Grand Lodge office is open for business. There's the phone number. The Grand Lodge, you don't go there, okay? It's not that open, but you can definitely get full service and take care of all your needs there. And finally, without Michigan Masonic Charitable Foundation, none of this is possible. If you want to help a fellow Michigan Mason or help the Masonic home, donate today. There's some numbers and information. And of course, everyone will get a copy of this we'll have this this presentation out there and out on the YouTube as well, so you can have access to this information. Here's some upcoming dates. I hope you'll join us in the coming weeks and months on these certain things, and I can stop talking.
Thanks, Brother Corey. Appreciate it very much. Thank you to everybody who has participated today. Again, we have recorded this session and it will be available on the Michigan Masons YouTube channel in the coming week. Take care.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Corey.